You're listening to Twins Takes, the Minnesota Twins podcast.
Play ball!
And welcome into Twins Takes. I'm Twins Central, joined by Falvey's Mattress and Twins Insider this afternoon as the Twins are coming off a series defeat to the Seattle Mariners. Insider, Falvey's Mattress, how you guys doing?
You know, another series loss. Starting to kind of just feel what happened in the offseason, and we're seeing the bullpen start to falter very much. So we're living. We're kind of seeing reaping the benefits of what we planted in the offseason.
I'm kind of feeling like I've been cross-checked by Jamie Benn in the back of the head, metaphorically and literally. How are you doing, Central?
That might feel better than watching Eric Orsi try to throw a strike in the ninth inning. Now, with that, we'll get into the news.
Breaking news.
Well, I got some bad news for you.
Extra.
Good news, everyone.
It's time for the news.
And the news this week, the Twins went 1-2 against Seattle, winning the opening game, but then losing the last two matchups of the series. This afternoon, Seattle came back, scored 3 in the ninth to hand the Twins the rubber match defeat. The Twins are now below the White Sox in the division. White Sox 14-13, Twins 13-18, I believe. The Twins are just one game up on the Royals, who really struggled for a while. Now they're just a game back. There is some good news. Mick Abel out injured right now on the IL. There was a positive update this week. He played catch. And this is per Aaron Gleeman from Derek Shelton. He started to play catch, and all signs have been encouraging. Abel's unlikely to come off a win first eligible, which I believe is the first, but the Twins continue to view this as a relatively minor issue. So positive news on the Abel front.
Yeah, it's very uncommon. It feels like when a pitcher gets an elbow or a shoulder ding to get actually quick and good news. They said it, they thought it would be pretty mild, and seemingly it is. So it's a little sliver of hope in a rough, dark patch.
Yeah, it's good to see him. And I mean, Connor Prielipp has filled in admirably. I think he's looked very good and kind of gotten rid of the question marks of if he had starting pitcher stuff. So it's good to see him get up while Abel's out. Hopefully Abel's back. In other news, we had Eric Wagaman was claimed by the Mets. He was a non-roster invite to spring training, did not make the team, and was really struggling in AAA St. Paul. And then one of the bright spots out of the bullpen, a reliever we picked up off waivers, Garrett Acton. He was placed on the 15-day IL with a right shoulder strain, which is always tough to see. Like Insider said, those are usually longer injuries than others for pitching. So with that, Luis Garcia was his contract was selected, and Zach Kent was DFA'd. Kent had a 2.79 ERA in St. Paul in 9 2/3 innings, and Garcia with a 4.5 in 2 innings pitched. So we saw Luis Garcia pitch last night, which was Tuesday, and he did not look too great.
Yeah, Garcia didn't look good at all. I thought there was a chance that he was going to be a one and done and maybe get DFA'd before today's game, but he will stick around a little bit longer. The Kent news is interesting. He has decent stuff plus numbers. The ERA at St. Paul is pretty good. I would have liked to see another look at him. It'll be interesting to see if he gets claimed.
Yeah, I would have rather seen a little more of Kent instead of a guy who's 40 years old and seemingly completely washed. I'm going to keep banging this Jordan Romano drum until he signs somewhere else, because I think he's better than both. But, Will, why don't you tell us about your guy Riley Quick?
Yeah, if you guys follow me on Twitter, you see me absolutely hammering on the Riley Quick drum. I am so excited for his prospect profile. So he recently got called up to high A. He made his debut just this afternoon, and he looked great. He went 4 innings. He allowed 1 hit, no earned, no walks, and struck out 5 guys. It was about 50-ish pitches. So, I mean, they're keeping him pretty tame, but he looked absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and then another pitcher prospect that was promoted this week, Ryan Gallagher, right-handed pitcher, who was acquired in the Willie Castro trade last July. He was promoted to AAA St. Paul. He'll make his major league debut tonight. That's Wednesday evening. He's a fringe top 30 prospect in the Twins org. Most rankings, he's probably inside of that. He's not quite in mine. He doesn't strike out a ton of guys. He's around the 8.5, 9. It's hard for me to get real excited about guys that don't strike out double digits per 9 in the low minors, but we'll see what he does. We'll see how he looks. Maybe he's a bullpen option here at some point. He still is pretty young, so keep an eye on him.
Yeah, he's definitely got to keep an eye on. He was a quick riser last year in the Cubs minor league system. Our attendance figures for this series. Monday was 14.1 thousand, Tuesday was 17.8, and Wednesday it was 20,000. The Monday was the small crowd, but they definitely had the best show.
Yeah, and speaking of best show, they got to see Connor Prielipp's first home start, his first major league win. He went 5 innings, allowed 2 runs, only 1 hit, walked 3, so the control a little bit worse than we saw in his big league debut in New York. He did strike out 5, got 11 whiffs. That's 32%. 6 of those whiffs were on the slider. It was more the same. The secondary pitches like the curveball and fastball were a little bit better located, I thought, but just, again, a really good positive sign from the Twins' left-handed prospect.
Yeah, like we kind of talked about, he's replacing Mick Abel, and he's filled in very well, so it's really fun to see. I mean, his secondary stuff is just nasty. I'd like to see him get a little bit more with that fastball, whether that's just location or maybe adding a couple miles an hour down the road. But I mean, yeah, his secondaries will certainly play, and he's got big league rotation upside for sure. And then Andrew Morse keeps getting used as the long inning guy in the bullpen. Through 4 innings, he's not allowed to run in his first inning of work, but overall he's got an ERA of 7.2. So I would like to see him get into some leverage spots. At this point, I don't know if they want to keep him stretched out or not, but I mean, he looks like he'd be our best reliever if he was given leverage spots. So that's what I'm pushing for. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you mentioned that ERA. His peripherals are a lot better, more like a 3 or 4 ERA pitcher at worst. And his stuff is not that great for a starter, but for this bullpen, it's far and away the best stuff. He's got the most whiff rate, I believe. He throws harder. He's got a lot of pitches. Like you said, you're at the point where you sort of have to try him as a reliever. I don't think he's a great starting prospect, so you're not giving up a ton of upside, and it's probably needed right now.
They did try to use him in a shorter outing. I believe it was against the Reds a few weeks ago. I think Ober went maybe 7 innings, or maybe Ober got through 6 and a change and somebody else got him into the 7th. I think he got through the first inning clean, or maybe allowed a run, but then he gave up, the game in the 9th inning. I think Acton came in after. I'm looking here. So Morris pitched 1 1/3 innings against the Reds. He allowed 3 hits, 3 runs, walked 2, struck out 2 on almost 50 pitches against the Reds. So that, even in a shorter outing, he wasn't still real effective. I do agree, like upside wise of the current guys in the pen, he probably is the, highest upside, but I don't think it's a guarantee that this guy's, going to be effective.
And I would just like to see him in 1 inning roles. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but his strikeouts are up in 1 inning compared to his 2nd and 3rd innings. I mean, his stuff plays up, and if he knows he's just going to be going 1 inning, his stuff should play up even more. I mean, at this point, with how Prielipp has looked out of the rotation, I don't really know if you have to keep him stretched out. We were talking, and he's probably the organization's starting pitcher 8 or 9. I think he's about 9. So I would like to see him just get that 1 inning role and see if we can make something out of him in the pen in high leverage situations. But we'll see what happens. That seems like a front office choice.
Yeah, it's not an ideal thing. You never want to give up starting depth, but as we'll talk about later, the ownership and front office have sort of forced their own hands now, where you probably have to make this move if you have any interest in trying to field even a competent team.
Yeah, they're kind of between a rock and a hard place because it's only April, about to be May, where you're going to have to use 15 starting pitchers throughout the year. Morris, absolutely, if he stays stretched out, is going to start a handful of games, especially if you think they're going to sell some guys at the deadline. That really gives them a good chance to start. So I see what the thinking is. You don't want to give up on him yet, but we've seen how bad this bullpen is, that if you give him 1 inning outings and he's good, like that's probably just more worthwhile to the team as a whole. And even if you do turn him into a reliever this year, if you want to keep him stretched out next year, you can always do that.
And we'll dig into Matt Wallner now, who is from Forest Lake, so we do like him, but man, has he been struggling at the plate. And I know we have one resident Matt Wallner absolute hater in here, so I'm going to kick it to him.
Hello. This is I don't want to go too hard on the guy. There are other guys slumping, but I've always the high strikeout guys always tend to flame out. We kind of saw it with Joey Gallo. He was really good for like 4 years. Then he kind of flamed out. Matt Wallner was one of our best hitters for 3 years, but he just looks completely lost. He can't field. He can't run. He can't make contact. He used to always have good discipline, but he's trying to do too much, so he's starting to chase. He's leaving runners on because he still hits like 5 or 6. And again, it's not even just about him. It's about you have a similar floor player with, I think, higher upside in AAA who hit a 118-mile-an-hour home run and a second home run in his Tuesday game, who's also constantly hurt. So Emmanuel Rodriguez has to play while he's healthy. It's time.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying. We talked about this a few weeks ago where I was, on board with giving Wallner a little bit longer runway here, but he's just over the past 2 weeks. He doesn't have an extra base hit since April 8th. That's 21 days ago. He doesn't have a home run since April 5th. That's what he's on the roster to do. He's not doing that. He's not even putting the ball in play. He came up with guys in scoring position multiple times today. He came up with the bases loaded, struck out. I think he struck out twice and then walked once. He did make a nice play. He threw a guy out the other night, but the defense still as a whole isn't good. I'd like to see Rodriguez get up here. We talk about wasting bullets with guys like Prielipp and the minors on the pitching side. I do agree with what you said about Rodriguez on the hitting side. Like, it's probably a matter of fact that at some point Rodriguez is going to get hurt this year. Let's get him up here while he's healthy, while he's playing well. See if he can not only, play well himself, but maybe light a spark in the rest of the team while they're scuffling.
Yeah, I don't remember who said it, but I asked on Twitter if, like, Matt, as kind of a joke, kind of tongue-in-cheek, has Matt Wallner even pulled the ball in the air in the last month? And I think since like April 5th, it was literally like 2 fly balls in the air to the pull side, because he's, like you said, he's up here to hit home runs. So if he's not going to, it's just not worth it.
I'm curious what they do with Wallner. Like, say you send him down and he's just not very good at AAA, kind of like we saw with Ed Julian and Jose Miranda last year. Do you think that's just the end of Matt Wallner? He probably has more value league-wide as a whole than those two guys did, so maybe you could flip him for something. They did manage to trade Julian. I can't even remember what they got for him. I think kind of a non-prospect package with Pearson Ole, but I'm really curious to see what happens with Wallner. It seems like we're kind of reaching the end of the rope here. Austin Martin's played a little bit more in the last week, which he deserves to do. Wallner was pulled today for a pinch hitter, so it seems like Shelton's starting to go away from him. I'm curious if the front office is kind of headed in the same direction. And then if they do that, what do they do with him? Because he's at risk of being passed up here. The rodent injury maybe gives him a little bit longer shelf life.
Yeah, like you said, that rodent injury does give Matt Wallner a little bit of play, but I mean, Emmanuel Rodriguez has just been banging down the door. Matt Wallner has an option left. I don't even want them to use it at this point. He's 28 years old. I don't want to send him down to AAA. At this point, it's just sink or swim with him. Let him figure it out at the plate. Like Insider said, he has been one of our best hitters for the last 3 years. He's got to either figure it out or just I don't know the answer, but Emma's got to get up somehow. I don't think that comes with an option just because, like I said, Matt Wallner's nearing 30 years old and has been one of the Twins' major leaguers' best hitters the last 3 years. So sending him to AAA at this point just does not seem like something that would really benefit the organization or benefit Matt. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on sending him down.
There is, in 23 and 24, he scuffled and then got sent down to AAA, got his swing right, got confident, and then was really good after that. So there's a little precedent that it's obviously kind of a dart throw, but I don't think it's the worst idea to option him. I also want to point out, again, I don't want to pick on him too much. There are definitely other hitters that we can pick on as well, and we can get into that soon.
Yeah, I was listening to Trevor Plouffe on the Score North podcast. They were talking about Wallner's struggles a little bit. Plouffe was of the opinion that Wallner would benefit from being sent down. They were talking about what they would do with Wallner and Keishel. Plouffe thought that Keishel just needs to work through it since, he's still hitting the ball. That's not really the issue. But with Wallner, he thought it was more mechanical. He thought the leg kick was maybe messing up his timing. They talked about on the broadcast today, Shelton was kind of upset with Wallner's stance not being consistent. I don't remember what game they were talking about. I think one in New York where, they have these data on Savant now where you can see how far apart a guy's feet are, where they set up in the box, and that wasn't consistent. So if it is something mechanically, which when you have a 43% K rate, it obviously is, that a reset in AAA could do him good. He's, much more talented than the average AAA player. So if you send him down there for 3 weeks and, he hits 8 home runs and gets hot, maybe you call him back up and see if he can get on a heater at the major league level.
Yeah, I mean, if that works, that works. That's great. But we have a logjam of positionless or just soft hitting players right now. And we've harped on this before on this show, and we're going to go back to it. The the decision to pay Josh Bell and Victor Caratini over signing relievers. I mean, we're paying a backup catchers / first baseman $7 million this year. We're playing a full-time DH $7 million this year. Neither have hit particularly well thus far, and we see our bullpen just leaking out wins. So, what do you guys think? Did we use our money ill-effectively?
The short answer is yes. $20 million is going to a pitcher that will never pitch for the team. $10 million is going to Correa to play well for another team. And then 7.5 is going to Caratini and 7.5 is going to Bell. And then we were able to splurge and spend about 3 to sign Bonda and Rogers. So, yes, we spent the money poorly.
Yeah, I mean, it was a baffling decision at the time, and it's even more baffling now after we've watched this bullpen for a month. I can understand one of these signings, but we've talked about it before. Having both on the roster just doesn't make a lot of sense. Caratini's not really a guy you want to play at first base, but he's played there against lefties. Bell is a guy that if he hits, you're fine playing at first base, but he hasn't really hit over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So, Clemens was the same way for a while. He had a nice series against the Mariners, but for most part, he hasn't been any good either. So they have 3 first basemen that really, can't play anywhere else defensively. Caratini can catch, I guess, but Bell's basically a DH, and the bullpen just, part of that's on the pull ads. Like it is possible to just spend more money and have Bell, Caratini, and other relievers.
Part of that is definitely on the pull ads. It's also, I hate to go back to this, but it's also on Derek Falvey. Until Kendry Rojas starts pitching and Alan Rodin magically heals his shoulder, the Blue Jays have a closer with an ERA of 0 who throws 100 miles an hour and grew up 5 miles from the ballpark. That one will sting for a while. It is hard to develop relievers, and paying them is risky. So by trading all of the ones who you developed into something good at once, it's painful. And again, the Varland trade, you don't see any returns from helping the team at all. You can see what Bradley did today. You can see what Abel's done. Rodin and Rojas have given us nothing. And Varland would probably give us 2 wins at this point.
Yeah, it really does suck losing Varland like that. He'd obviously be our closer, and he's had one hell of a year with Toronto. He wasn't this good last year. The thing with Varland is just he gives us 1 inning. We need a couple good relievers. We've lost a lot of games in the 7th and the 8th inning that Varland wouldn't have even had a chance to close the game. So yes, that trade right now looks awful. I'm still excited to see what Rojas does. I think his stuff looks electric, and Alan Rodin looks like a solid major league player if he gets the chance. We know Derek Falvey was over the moon with that trade offer, and that's why he took it. So I'm just going to preach patience on this one, but it sure would be nice to have a 100-mile-an-hour closing pitcher in our bullpen right now.
Ironically, that could possibly be Rojas if we didn't have Taylor Rogers throwing his 89-mile-an-hour fastballs. But again, and they've also backed themselves into a corner where Rogers was their quote-unquote big spending guy. It was like $2.5 million. So they just have to roster him. I think they feel that way, even though he's been awful.
Yeah, and I kind of say this in jest, but it seems like Taylor Rogers being a former Twin is like partially the reason that he was brought back. Not that anybody's buying tickets to see Taylor Rogers, but I don't think that it hurt him that he was a former Twin. He was well liked, and listen, that's good for the clubhouse, but anyone that was expecting the Taylor Rogers that the Twins got 4 or 5 years ago was out of their mind. And, Anthony Bonda, the other guy that they kind of spent money on via, paying him $1 million and trading some international bonus pool money. He hasn't been very good either, although he has been a little bit better his last few appearances. So, let's just say you don't sign either Bell or Caratini, you just sign one of them, and then you pay it 2 relievers $4 million instead of having one of those guys. I think the bullpen and the team as a whole is in much, much better shape over having both of these guys.
Yeah, I think, just for example, off the top of my head, I think Sean Armstrong got like $4 million, and I think Coulomb got like $1 million. Like, would you rather have Luis Garcia and Taylor Rogers and Josh Bell, or Julian or whoever that would have been at kind of DH, and then Armstrong and Coulomb? I think the answer is pretty obvious.
Yeah, if we can just have any length of leverage capable arms at this point, that would be fantastic. And I mean, like you guys said, we could have signed that for the price of Victor Caratini or the price of Josh Bell. And I mean, we're seeing that just we have no leverage arms whatsoever. I mean, Eric Orsi was supposed to be one of, if not our best relievers this year, and he blew the save today. He allowed 3 earned runs in the 9th. So it's really frustrating that we spent $14 million on 2 positionless players. I mean, Caratini, like Central said, does have the upside of being a backup catcher, but we had Alex Jackson for that at that point as well.
Yeah, I feel like we could just complain about this for a long time, but I'll just close it out by pointing out that it was so predictable that the way this team was built didn't make any sense. It's not hindsight because it was predictable and everybody said it at the time.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. The team right now is struggling in ways that everybody guessed it was going to struggle. And thankfully, the starting pitching has been good in ways that everybody thought it was going to be, even without Pablo Lopez. That continued in this series against Seattle. 18 innings pitched as a starting pitching staff, allowed 6 runs. My math isn't great, but that's 2 runs a game out of the starters over 6 innings. We talked about Prielipp. Taj Bradley today threw a career high 114 pitches, got through 7 innings in 114 pitches. I just want to quickly talk about, we saw that 7th inning. The Twins were up and 2 were down. Two outs and a guy on second. Shelton opted to keep Bradley in. I think he was at 106 pitches at the time. Cole Young, who killed the Twins this series, got that base hit. Were you guys a fan of keeping Bradley in, not only just for that at bat, and then even after he scored, Shelton decided to leave him in and run the pitch count even higher?
You know, I was a fan for the Cole Young at bat. Like you said, I mean, he killed us. So let's go with our starter and our pitcher that has the best stuff. He's 106 pitches. We can get him through, one more batter, hopefully. And Cole Young just put a great swing on the pitch. After that, I personally wanted to see him taken out of the game. And it's not because I don't want him to go get that next out. It's not because I don't trust the bullpen. It's an injury management thing at that point. He was going 100% for that 7th inning when we saw he was touching 99 miles an hour. So he's going full exertion, and he had 3 high leverage at bats where I don't think the process is great to have your young starting pitcher do that in April. I mean, Taj Bradley is so important to our franchise, and to see him go down with arm soreness of any sort would suck.
I don't love it for the reasons that Mattress outlined, but I don't think there's a huge difference between 110 and 115 ultimately. There's a big difference between like 80 and 110, but at that point, I think it's all kind of the same. And I will point out that the 18 innings, 6 runs is great. That includes both Ryan and Bradley giving up a run in the 7th because the team, Shelton knows that he literally doesn't have a good reliever on the team. So he made them go out and throw 115 pitches. And he also did that because they were trying to preserve a tight lead because they couldn't come through with runners on all series.
Yeah, speaking of not coming through with runners on, they were just 8 for 34 with runners in scoring position. That was after Monday where they were hot with runners in scoring position. They were 5 for 12, but finished just 8 for 34. So that makes them, 3 for 22 the rest of the series, just 235 as a whole. One guy we ragged on last podcast, Cody Clemens, for not being very good thus far, did have a good series. He drove in 5 Monday and continued to add hits throughout the rest of the series. So maybe he'll get hot. We saw him, run hot for a little while last year. After this break, we'll do our first edition of hashtag Ask Twins Takes and then break down the upcoming 4-game set against the Blue Jays. Stick with us. And welcome back into Twins Takes, as we'll now transition into our first edition of hashtag Ask Twins Takes. If you haven't heard about this, reply to us on Twitter with the hashtag Ask Twins Takes, or leave a comment on the YouTube or Spotify feed. And this week we have 2 questions picked out. The first one comes from Twitter user @CyLouis. His question is, how do you envision Kendry Rojas's usage going forward, building up to a Morris role or actually starting? And which would you prefer to say? C, Falvey's Mattress, let's start with you.
At this point, I would like to see Rojas in the major leagues. Maybe that's just because Louis Varland's been killing it so much. So in my ideal world, Kendry Rojas gets called up and serves in the Andrew Morris role, which thus pushes Andrew Morris into the late inning leverage role. thus getting rid of, God, I wish it was Taylor Rogers, but he's
Take your pick. There's like 5 guys. Just name one.
So getting rid of one of our relief pitchers that have been struggling so much. So that's what I would like to see. You want to see Rojas keep stretched out just because his stuff is so good. And if there's any chance for him to be a starting pitcher in the future, you want to keep that on the table. Also, injuries happen, so I would like to see him stretched out for that case. And Morris would get high leverage from it. So that's my answer to what I would like to see Kendry Rojas do. I'd like to thank St. Louis for the question.
Yeah, I want him to just keep doing what he's doing. I mean, he's been fine at AAA, but he hasn't like been pounding the door down. I know you mentioned like Varland being good kind of makes you want to rush him, but I'm glad they haven't decided to do that so far. His debut, while he got through 2 scoreless innings, he did walk 3 guys. The control is a little bit of a question mark. I still believe in his upside as a starter, but I don't want to rush that. Just let him keep pitching at AAA. Ultimately, I think he'll stay stretched out through the summer, and then we'll see him transition to the bullpen just as they try to keep his innings down, in check this year. So I think we'll see him in AAA, maybe get some spot starts, some spot call-ups. But I think what they're doing with him right now is actually what I agree with.
I'm kind of on a mix of those. I kind of want to see Rojas, especially if they're going to keep Prielipp, which I don't know if they will, but I'd like Rojas as that kind of handcuff guy, that 3 or 4 inning guy. Let his stuff play, let him kind of develop, and then you can, like you said, you can reliever him later if you need to. But I also want, because I want to push Morris up to a real reliever role. That's why I want Rojas in the big league long relief spot. But I mean, Simeon's also been struggling to go deep, so you could handcuff those 2. I think there's a way to get Rojas on that kind of 3 or 4 inning schedule in the big leagues, which I think you need his stuff there.
Yeah, I think it's hard if you have 2 guys like that, if you have Rojas and Morris both on that plan in the big leagues at the same time, because then you're basically working with a 6-man bullpen, which we've seen they can't even, keep everybody up and active every day when they're using an 8-man pen for now. So thanks to Cy Louis for the question on Rojas. Now our other question, this comes from Phil Hansen, again on Twitter. He asked, regardless of if the player is ready to come up, if you could add one prospect to the team, who would it be? What would the ripple effect be of adding that player? So Twins Insider, let's start with you here on this fun hypothetical.
Yeah, I've alluded to this. And again, thanks to Phil for the question. I've alluded to this plenty, but it's Emmanuel Rodriguez. I think the easiest one is a Wallner option, but there's also an Outman DFA. Outman would probably sneak through waivers. It would allow Wallner to more DH, which he's more suited for, and then it would get Emma in the field. It would get that bat. It would get his speed. I think he's easily the most exciting Twins prospect right now. He's been in AAA for a couple of years. It's just definitely the right thing to do. It's the right time.
Yeah, so we've talked plenty about Louis Varland this episode, as he will be coming to town. A guy I think that can make a Louis-esque transition to the bullpen is Zebby Matthews. He struggled as a starter this year in AAA. I would call him up and move him to the bullpen. He's a lot like Louis. He throws hard. He throws a lot of strikes. He struggles giving the long ball. But we saw Louis do that as a starter, and then, now he's one of the best relievers in the league. I'd give Zebby that shot. The bullpen needs the velocity. They just need guys that can get out. So I'd like to see a look at Zebby, pitching the 8th and 9th inning while they struggle.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to mine with the Kendry Rojas, so that's what my answer would be to this, Phil. Again, thank you for asking. I'll just kind of go off what Twins Insider said. It's Emma, right? It's Emmanuel Rodriguez. He's tearing the cover off the ball. I mean, for Christ's sakes, he just hit a ball 118 miles an hour. Maybe we get really creative with it. Luke Keeschel has really struggled. I don't think he needs to go down personally, but I mean, you can make the argument you send Luke down to AAA to get right. You push Cody over to second base. You have Josh Bell first base. Wallner's DHing, and then Emmanuel Rodriguez is your starting right fielder. I mean, there's ways to get him up that don't just include what Insider said. I think he has the best routes, but being as Kendry Rojas was my main answer, I just did want to say that we could do something along those lines.
In our stat of the week for this week, another former Blue Jay, this time Austin Martin. The streak did come to an end today, sadly, as he came in as a pinch hitter, went 0 for 2. But prior to today, he reached base at 18 straight games. That was all to start the year. That was the highest streak since last year. Brooksley, I believe, did it in 19 games. So Austin Martin's hot streak has continued. He's played a little bit more against right-handers. I think that might be a reason that they're holding off on calling Emma up right now, is they want to give Martin a little bit of a runway against righties to see if he can carry that success over. If you have Rodriguez up, obviously you're going to play him every day, especially against right-handers. So I think that is a point of contention on maybe why they haven't pulled the trigger on that yet is because Martin had reached an 18 straight and has looked really good.
You could still, Martin could play a little center and left, and you could give Buxton a day off. You could put Larnick at DH and give Bella maybe a needed day off. So again, I think that's a little. There are ways around that, but I mean, Martin's been our best player, our best position player. I don't think it's that close. I think he's finally the player that he was at Vanderbilt, that got him drafted top 5, that got him on the top 100 prospect list, that got him traded for a pretty good starter at the time in Barrios. So it's a good development story ultimately. It took a little longer than it probably should have, but I'm happy for him, and he's really helping the team.
Yeah, now we'll get into our series takeaways for the Seattle series. We have Troy's here. His is same story with the bullpen, and it's already getting very predictable. We've talked plenty about it, but he just echoes our thoughts. And then mine has to do with Connor Prielipp. There was, talk coming into the year of people saying, is Prielipp a reliever? Is he going to be good enough to be a starter? Can he pitch enough? And mine is that, we can put the talk of that to bed. Prielipp is a starter. He has starter stuff. The only question is, can he stay healthy? And the only way we can answer that is with time.
Yeah, mine, just take another swing at this dead horse here, but this team is, unfortunately, I just don't think they're a serious team until they make a couple moves. I know that's a little open-ended, but what I have in mind is obviously Amanda Rodriguez. Like I said, beat that dead horse. And then I think you have to do something in your bullpen. I alluded to it earlier. I'll be on the Romano hype train. He's not great, but he gets strikeouts and whiffs, which nobody else in this bullpen can get. I mean, Luis Garcia does not belong on an MLB team. Neither does Taylor Rogers. Neither do a couple of the other guys. You have to do something. It's too early to make trades. You have a bad record. You're not going to trade from a bad record, but do something.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just feel like a parrot here to Insider and Troy. I mean, my takeaway is that we knew this was coming. I mean, we saw this coming in January, December, that this team, the bullpen was going to be bad. There was a logjam. There wasn't a real route to get Emmanuel Rodriguez, Walker Jenkins, Alan Roden up yet without injury. We haven't had those injuries in the outfield. Our bullpen's been awful. It's really frustrating, but we knew it was coming. But it's still a really, really, really difficult watch. So I don't know if something's going to shake loose at some point here soon. Something's got to give, you would hope for. But it was predictable, and we saw it coming. But the good news is we've got a new series coming to town, and we had a winning series against them earlier in the season. So we got Toronto coming to town for 4 for what should be a pretty good weekend series.
Yeah, let's take a look at the Blue Jays. Now they're 14-16, so playing a little bit better, getting a little bit healthier. The Jays offense is 27th in runs with 113 scored, 10th in batting average. They're hitting 247 as a team. Their WRC plus is 91st. That's 24th in the league. On the pitching side, they have the 20th best ERA, a 4.31, but the underlying numbers are better than that, a 3.81 FIP. That's 8th in the league. Their defense by fielding run value, the best in the league. 15th in defensive runs saved, so a little bit of a disagreement there. And then outs above average splits the two. They have them 7th overall in the league. So an above average defense pitching that should have positive regression in the offense, just lifeless as a whole so far, but they are playing a little bit better lately. Game 1 Thursday evening, the Wild and the Wolves also having playoff games, so it'll be interesting to see how the attendance is on this one and just people following along on Twitter and whatnot. Right-handed pitcher Kevin Gausman gets to start 2-1, 2.57 ERA. He goes up against Bailey Ober, who's 2-1, 3.94 ERA. Gausman, a guy the Twins traditionally have had success against.
Yeah, I mean, this is what if Rocco was a better manager, this would have been the pitching matchup for Game 1 a couple years ago, but he decided to go with Pablo for some reason over Ober. But Gausman is 1-5 with a 6.43 ERA versus Minnesota in 14 starts. He's actually been a really good pitcher for a long time, but I think Twins fans don't think of him that way because we've just hit him really hard. Ober is 2-3 with a 3.96 against the Blue Jays in 7 starts. He's had some really good ones in recent years. This is, even though Gausman has the better ERA, this feels like a game that the team has a good shot to win.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, with just a worse lineup than we've had the last few years, if we can keep hitting Kevin Gausman hard, because like you said, he is a really good pitcher. He's really talented. He gives most major league teams the fits. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, it seems like we've always found a way to just spit on his splitter. So see if we can keep not chasing that. Game 2, we've got a rematch of Patrick Corbin He's 0-0 with a 3.72 ERA versus our guy Simeon Woods Richardson, who is 0-4 with a 6.40 ERA. Like I said, it's a rematch. Both pitchers got knocked around pretty good in Toronto when they faced each other. Simeon was sick that game. I just want to highlight with Sim, it seems like he's had most of his starts where he's allowed a crooked number in one inning, whether that's 3 or 4 runs, and it's not a recipe for success for Major League starting pitchers.
Yeah, he like most starters has been really good the first time through the order, and then that second and third time, if he does see him a third time, he has struggled. That's always been the question with him, especially now that the stuff isn't what it was, what we saw in September last season when he was really, really good. I'm curious to see this one. They had that stretch where they played so many lefties in a row. Now they haven't seen any for a while, so I'm curious to see if the lineup can, maybe get hot again here against a lefty that isn't very good. So this will be one to keep an eye on. That's a 7-10 first pitch, and then game 3. Another really good pitcher, right-handed pitcher Dylan Cease going for the Blue Jays. He's 1-1, 2.87 ERA. Against lefty Connor Prielipp, 1-0, a 4 ERA. Cease has an AL leading 49 strikeouts in just 31 and a third innings over 6 starts. But he has been struggling to go deep. He's a guy that uses his pitch count real high. He doesn't throw a ton of strikes, but he does get a lot of whiffs. So the Twins do draw a lot of walks. It'll be curious to keep an eye on that in this game 3 here.
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a lot of strikeouts from these starters, and they both will probably be done by the 5th inning. But like you said, it's going to be curious because they both have walk problems. Who's going to be more patient? Which lineup is going to be more aggressive within the strike zone? I know sometimes Cease has had a real problem with the home runs as well, in some years at least. This team has not been hitting a lot of home runs recently. That'll be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Cease seems to give us the fits. So, we'll see what happens. I like this pitching matchup. It's really fun to see Connor Prielipp against what used to be and still kind of is a frontline starting pitcher. I mean, we all see the ceiling with Connor Prielipp, so excited to see this matchup. And then in game 4, which is a 1-10 start, it's listed as to be determined right now, but it should be Trey Savage making his second start of the year. His first start was this Tuesday. He went 5 1/3 innings against I don't remember who he was up against. I apologize. He went 5 1/3 innings with 3 strikeouts and no walks in a win. He'll be going up against our ace, Joe Ryan. Joe is 2-3 this year. He's got a 3.76 ERA, and he had a very good start against them earlier in the year. He went 7 complete with 2 earned runs. So should be a good pitching matchup. I mean, we all saw how great Trey Savage was in the playoffs last year, and we'll see if he keeps it up in his sophomore year.
Yeah, I believe that was against the Red Sox is who Savage's season debut was against. But 3 of the 4 matchups in this one are really intriguing on paper. That game 2, Corbin versus SWR, not so much. But Ober Gosman, Cease Prielipp, and Savage Ryan, if that's what it ends up being, those are really intriguing matchups to watch. I'm curious to see how not just the Twins, but also the Blue Jays pitchers look, how the Twins lineup looks against them. And as we've talked about the last few weeks, I'm curious if Austin Martin keeps getting runway here against righties.
And yeah, let's get into the series predictions. We've got an update on the standings. Troy and Central stand above at 5-5, and then Insider and myself, Mattress, are 3-7. So we're looking for the comeback trail. I will note that my Troy series prediction is a split. He thinks the teams are going to go 2-2. Myself, I've got them going 1-3. I think we're running into the Blue Jays as they're getting healthy. I think they're a very good baseball team, and I think we're really scuffling. So we'll get 1. But I do not think we're going to win more than 1 this series.
I think that myself and Mattress we've been kind of unlucky. I think we have a good process. We've just not been getting those results. I think we'll probably finish 1 and 2 in the standings, but I'm also, my good process is that I pick the team to lose the series usually. That's what I'm going to do here. I see 1 and 3. The Blue Jays, as injured as they are still probably a better roster. There's going to probably be more Blue Jays fans than Twins fans there. We don't tend to play very well against the Blue Jays. I feel like I just feel a 1 and 3 series.
Yeah, I'm going to be slightly more optimistic. I see 2 and 2. These 4-game sets are always a little bit hard to predict. While Gosman Ober on paper is a little bit of a mismatch, we did mention how well the Twins hit him, so I think they have a decent shot in that one. And then the other 3, I think, are all fairly good odds for the Twins. So I'll go 2 and 2 here. Troy has a similar process. He predicts 2 and 2, so Troy and I 2 and 2, Insider and Falvey's Mattress 1 and 3. We'll see who takes the victory here. Hopefully none of us are right and the Twins can, win the series 3-1 or 4-0.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? We'll see what happens. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. know it's got to be a little bit long, but we had some tangents to go on. We'll be back on Monday, recapping the Blue Jays series. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Please like and subscribe. It helps with our socials. Give us a follow on Twitter. It's at TwinsTakePod. I know that we've been, especially Twin Central, has been pushing out some shorts whenever there's been impactful roster moves, so keep an eye out for those. And then keep asking questions. Phil and Cy Lou, you guys had great questions, so it's a fun segment to really interact with fans and get some questions that we might not think of when we're setting the script for the next episode. So it really makes us think. It forces us to have a conversation with each other and helps us build off each other. So it's really fun to interact that way, and we really appreciate the questions. That hashtag is #AskTwinsTakes. So, please keep asking us questions in the comments on YouTube, wherever, and on Twitter, obviously. And thanks for listening. For myself, always Mattress, this has been Central and Twins Insider, and thank you guys, and we'll see you on Monday.